everybody, and welcome back to our channel. We are so excited to have you with us because today we're actually kicking off our Fun Fridays.
Yes, and with that, we're starting with our mini-series called Our Story. But because of that, we have to go all the way back to the beginning.
All the way back.
All the way back, beginning where we all started a long time ago.
Yeah, so many friends have asked us, like, how did you guys meet? How did you get here?
30 years later, how did we get here?
We just decided to have like these mini series, Fun Fridays, just to give you a little bit of our background and how we got here.
So thank you for joining us, and let's go on a journey together. My first impression of Bella. Well, I'll have to go all the way back to grade 10 in Winnipeg in English class. That's right. I think class had started for about 10 minutes or so. You walked in a little bit late that day.
It was my first day of school.
And I was sitting the second row from the back. And you walked in, and I'm like, wow, this girl is on fire. And then you kind of sat not too far from me. And English class went on.
It was the only chair available.
It was the only chair available. I think God was on my side that day. That's what I'm saying. And so that was my first impression. I thought, man, she is different than the other girls. You dress different. You look different. And I'm like, I need to know this girl.
The first impression of Joe. It wasn't good.
It wasn't good.
It wasn't.
I was such a great boy.
He was Mr. Popularity in school. So we've met in that English class, and then we had a few other classes together. But he was so popular, and all the girls around in school were after him. And I just thought that he was just a Mr. Snob, that he thought it was the best thing since sliced bread, and I wanted nothing to do with him. That was my first impression. Except one very distinctive feature of my darling husband. You have to understand that when we first met, he was a punk.
Well, this was back in the 80s. We're talking about 1986. 87.
Yes, 87.
1987.
This is September 1987.
So, the acid wash jeans,
leather pants,
tight stuff,
spiky hair.
I was only 16 at the time.
He was Mr. Leather.
Right.
Everything was tight.
So what
spiky hair.
What was the first impression?
He had a really nice behind. Oops! Should I say that on camera?
So our first interaction, the beginning that we kind of started talking was, I had been in Canada for a year now.
Right.
And you...
I had just arrived.
You had just arrived from Portugal. So that alone, you being Portuguese, looking different, looking really cool and awesome and amazing.
So he's constantly inviting me for stuff. And then
I realized that, hey, her English is not the greatest. So I offered my translating services. And I thought, this could be a great stepping stone towards getting to know you.
And that's where I actually accepted his, what do you want to call it?
Translating services.
Translating services.
Yeah, because you were looking for a church at the time.
Yes, so I had just came from Portugal, and I was very active in our church in Portugal. And when we came here, I was looking for a place that was very similar to what I was used to.
Yeah, you're
very charismatic,
Pentecostal. I mean, I was Catholic, but you talked about God, and I'm like, hey, I know God too, so that's all.
So
good.
I was looking online, and at the time it wasn't online. I was looking on TV, and I came across this church that was very similar to what I was used to in Portugal. At least on TV. So I asked him if he could come with me, and so that he could actually translate for me once we got there.
Of course I wanted to go with you because I just wanted to spend time with you. So I offered my translating service. I'm like, I am going to translate this service for you, and I'm going to sit on that pew at least for an hour or so.
Sure.
Yes. So I picked you up, and we went to church that Sunday morning.
Yes, we did.
And it was a little different for me because I was not used to all the singing, all the lifting up hands, because you got to understand, I come from a Catholic background, and you were like Pentecostal.
You were an altar boy.
I was an altar boy for many years. Since I was a kid, I was, around nuns because my sisters and my mom worked in the daycare in town back in the Azores Islands. So that kind of setting in service was a little different, but I was willing to bite the bullet because I've got at least an hour with you. So that was awesome.
So that was great, because then at the end of the service, we've met with a couple that were Portuguese, and I was able to speak with them freely. And they told me that the Portuguese church was about to start the following Sunday if I wanted to attend.
And it was like bursting my bubble. So now I cannot use my translating services on Sunday mornings. Like, what in the world is going on here?
God had a totally different plan. But this interaction kind of started us communicating more, because you had so many questions regarding what you saw on that specific Sunday.
Yeah, and I remember telling you, like, I know God. I know God. I mean, I've been an altar boy. I've been around nuns and priests since I was a baby. So now I'm 16 years old, and I know God. And I remember me asking you, at one point I said, hey, could we just go out for a coffee and get to know each other a little bit more? And I remember you saying, well, for you to be able to go out with me, you've got to go out with Jesus first. And I'm like, okay, I didn't sign up for this. I signed up for the translating thing. I will go with you on a Sunday morning and translate the service. But not this Jesus thing, like way too much out of my league. Because I said, I know God.
And I told you, no. From the interaction we've had, I kind of understood that you knew, and the way you spoke about God, you knew of God, but you did not know God. You did not have a relationship with Him.
Right.
And that's where we started long conversations about what does that mean, knowing God, and,
right, and that
having a relationship with God.
And to me, it was like, what in the world? Like, can't we just go out for a moment and have a coffee? I mean, all I wanted to go is NW. That's all I wanted to go. And I remember you're saying, no, you've got to know God before we can even think of becoming a boyfriend and girlfriend. Got to remember, I was 16 years old. And all of this kind of happened from a English class setting.
So I did agree to go out with you after for coffee. Remember?
Oh, I remember one time that I not only was your translator for the services, I became your Uber driver and started driving you to church. And I remember that I would drive you to church, sit in the church parking lot for like 2-3 hours at a time.
And you didn't want to get in?
No, because I was Catholic and you don't do that. And I'm like, what in the world is going on inside of that building for 2-3 hours? Mass is about 55 minutes long. I had no clue what you guys were doing.
When you have a relationship with God, you need to praise Him, worship Him, and then hear the Word and just have fun in the process.
I know, but one time you said, okay, so I'll go out with you. And I remember I was so excited. I got my deodorant. I think I was using Old Spice back then. I don't know. It was something. And I was all
set.
So I drove you to church. I sat in the parking lot because I wasn't going. I sat in the parking lot for whatever amount of time.
This was a Wednesday afternoon. It was a Wednesday evening when you came to
I think it was like
prayer meeting.
A Wednesday or a Friday, but I remember.
A prayer meeting.
Yes, but before that, I drove you and you said you were going to go out with me. But then what happened was, after the meeting, there's like 10, 15, 20 kids.
It's a Friday night. That was it. Yeah,
it was a Friday night.
You referring to the
And then I'm like, seriously, we're going to go out with another 15, 20 people? That was not the plan. So then it all...
That was my plan.
It all went on again where we're back at it, same parking lot, same church. But now it was a Wednesday night.
That's right.
Yeah, and I was driving you to church on Wednesdays.
I invited you again.
Wednesdays,
you
Fridays.
Come in with me?
Yeah, I would drive you Wednesdays, Fridays, Sundays to church. And you said, do you want to go in with me? And I said, no. And I was determined that was not my thing because I knew of God. So I didn't need God because I had God already. But you were so determined that I'm not going to go out with you as a boyfriend and girlfriend until you have a relationship with God.
Because that was very important to me.
That was very important to you, and you were
That
so
is still very important to
still
me.
very important to you. And I was so determined. You were so determined, and so that day, I said, you know what do I have to lose? It's Wednesday night. Friday is coming, and I might have a chance to go out with you. So let me go check it out what's going on in this church. So I remember going into the church that day. And
You have to understand that Portuguese church was like mainly Portuguese but mainly Brazilian,
Right.
and this is a prayer night.
Right.
So when Brazilians and Portuguese get together and pray, it's not
Anyone.
like a small steel...
Listen, as we were walking through that door into the building, through the hallway, because we were going towards the chapel, I started hearing all this noise and this commotion that was going on. It was like people yelling and screaming and crying, and all the hairs in my body were sticking up like, I think I'm in a cult or something. So you were leading me down this hallway into this meeting, and I walked in and I saw nobody.
Full-on prayer meeting.
It was a prayer meeting.
Everybody speaking in tongues.
Right.
Very loud, and everybody on their knees. So when you walk in, you don't see anybody because
Right.
all you see at the time was pews.
It was just beautiful.
Joe was
So
like,
I was like
"Where's
looking
everybody?"
and seeing where everybody was, and I couldn't see a soul. And then I started seeing people on their knees, and I'm like, this is a cult. This is a total cult, because if my mother only would find out that I was here, I would be in deep trouble. So I sat on my little corner and waited for the whole thing to finish, because I
It was
knew
so
Friday was coming.
Scary.
I was shaking.
You know, like deer in headlights.
Yes, I was shaking. So I was like, Friday's coming. I'm going to get a date with her because I've been in church. I'm a good boy, and everything is going to be
And
all right.
up to this point, my goal was to basically get him to have an encounter with Jesus instead of just hearing about.
And all I
lies.
wanted is an encounter with you. That's all I was looking for. I had Jesus,
And God
man.
had a totally different
Well,
plan.
I
didn't
was
he?
an altar boy. I had an encounter with Jesus, so I thought. So, but God had a different plan.
Totally.
So I sat on that service, or that prayer meeting that you called, and
And then the pastor starts speaking, and
Yes.
he preached, and you were like,
And then I came out of
so
that,
different.
and then Thursday, Friday, Saturday came, and we spent hours on the phone, just like, I'm like, all these questions about everything that had happened in that prayer meeting and that service, the stuff that the pastor was talking about, all these questions that it was like things that I didn't even
The
know.
interesting thing about it was when you got out of there, you said to yourself, you told me after, that I will never go back in there again.
Hello.
This is craziness.
It was
Total
creepy.
crazy.
So Saturday came. I remember that. Saturday came, and I know now, because
Now we know.
I know now. But then I didn't know. It was this thing that it was like there was this thing inside of me, in my gut or something. I don't know. It was inside of me that pulling me back. And there was this desire that I need to go to church on Sunday. I had no clue why I had to go, because all I wanted is to go out with you. And this thing started, like, there was something within me that I needed to go back to church on Sunday. I don't know what happened, but I never made it to do a youth meeting on Friday. But when Saturday came, I needed to go back to church. So I told you on that Saturday that I was going to go with you to
Yes,
church
you
on
did.
Sunday. So, and that's where everything begins. That's where our story.
Yes. So stay tuned for our next episode, and we will continue with our journey. Hope you enjoyed it, to get to know us a little bit more, and a little bit more of our journey.
That's right. Thank you for watching. We appreciate it.
Blessings.